Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls! Well, the movie that people never thought would be made is now currently being made, due for release in 2018, and it's pretty much well known by everybody that Aquaman is the butt of a lot of jokes.
Oh, someone say cruise ship like in the ocean? Why didn't you invite me?
Oh, to tell the fish to get out of the way? No, they figured it out.
Nice one, Superman.
Oh, sorry guys, bad news. The toilet's still clogged. That was an ancient relic passed down from my ancestors.
Well, your ancestors didn't know crap about plumbing.
But I've got friends coming over tonight.
These lobsters walked right up to the door. Anyone hungry?
The Johnsons! Oh no! And Johnson performed my brizz!
But as weird as it might seem, not only do I believe that Aquaman could be cool, I actually think that it has the potential to maybe be one of the biggest films of the DC universe ever, even bigger than the Justice League.
Yes, you heard me right.
Let me explain. Everybody knows that brand recognition is very important with movies. I mean, it must be, right? Considering how much Hollywood loves franchises and remakes. They always do extremely well. Always. Without exception. Every time. Because having a recognizable brand is the only thing that matters, right? Yeah, well, okay, not the only thing that matters, but it certainly helps. And while Aquaman is not exactly people's favorite superhero, everybody knows who he is. They might not know what all of his powers and abilities are, but everybody knows who Aquaman is. So he does have that brand recognition, but not so much that people are totally married to his character in the same way they are with Superman or Batman. This means the movie makers are free to throw out elements of his character and his origin that don't work particularly well without people freaking out about it. Kind of like they could with the first Iron Man movie. Robert Downey Jr.'s version of Iron Man there is substantially different from that of the comic book version, but since nobody at that time really knew that much about Iron Man, it didn't really matter, nobody minded. A very similar thing can be done with Aquaman. And in my opinion, the number one thing that the filmmakers must use this freedom to overturn is not some of the more silly aspects of Aquaman, but his origin story. So Aquaman's origin is he's half human, half Atlantean, a child of two worlds, whose birth was intended to build a bridge between two worlds, who then learns that the reason that he feels like an outsider, the reason he feels like he doesn't fit in, is because he's from another world, but he has a special purpose. He was sent here for a reason, and he now has to prevent his evil, power-hungry half-brother from usurping the throne of Atlantis, after which he not only becomes the ruler of that world, but he also serves as somewhat of an ambassador to Earth, while always remaining a bit of a brooding loner.
Something very familiar about all this.
Yeah, you guys see the problem, right? There is nothing about this origin story that we haven't already seen millions of times before in movies. So that's why I think they should just gut the origin story. Just don't do it, just get rid of it. We don't even need it. And don't forget, the Aquaman movie comes out after the Justice League movie. So we will have already been introduced to the character in that. So there's literally no reason to do an origin story. And since by then we'll have also seen Wonder Woman as well as Justice League, I think it's safe to assume that by that point, audiences will be open to seeing something new and different. Seeing endless swarms of nameless drones attacking them, or a hero going up against a villain who's basically just their mirror opposite, would have been enough for that. We'll be ready for something new. And I don't think it's an accident that Warner Brothers slotted Aquaman into that slot. I think they realized they're going to need something different at that point to shake things up. When you sit down and think about all of the amazing possibilities and the opportunities for creativity that come with the Aquaman movie, that's why I think this could be one of the best DC movies. Let's go through some of those weird things. So Atlantis is an underwater civilization. It can essentially be a completely different world. In real life, there are still huge areas underwater that no human has ever seen before, with creatures that have never been discovered. And in the comics, a popular story is The Trench, which is the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean that not even Atlanteans can go into, which is home of some very weird and scary sea creatures. So part of Aquaman's job could be to prevent these huge monstrous creatures from reaching the surface. So Pacific Rim style, every now and then one of these monsters might swim out of the trench and it's up to him to punch it back down again. So who knows, he might have already saved the surface world countless times. Aquaman also has a pet octopus called Topo, which might sound stupid, but if you made Topo like a cool, scary, giant octopus kind of thing, it could kind of be like his Chewbacca. It's not that crazy an idea. Plus, the whole world of Atlantis is also full of a lot of magic. Aquaman's trident has the spirit of Neptune in it, and it gives him complete control over the ocean. So not only could he stop or create a tidal wave in a heartbeat if he wanted to, but he could even flood the entire planet, Noah style, and wipe out all life on this planet if he wanted to. His wife Mera also has a lot of magical powers that give her control over the water. In one instance, when someone was making fun of her and Aquaman, she just starts drawing all of the water out of his body until he passes out, stopping only just before the point of death. And after Aquaman lost his hand in a story, he got a magical water hand that gave him similar powers to her over the water, including the ability to instantly boil or freeze water, meaning that he could freeze your blood right in your veins if he wanted to, or boil you from the inside out. And in some versions of the character, when he uses the magic, some of the tattoos on his body will start shining and glowing. Pretty cool. And also kind of accurate. A lot of the sea creatures deep in the ocean, since light can't reach down there, they give off their own light, they glow. Plus, if you took this and combined it with his underwater vision, you could make the underwater scenes and Atlantis look really unique. It'd essentially be like traveling to an alien world, but without leaving the planet. Also, Aquaman's telepathic control over sea creatures can also be used for a lot of really interesting things.
When Arthur is confronted by a genetic chimera of a sea monster, Aquaman uses his telepathic connection to ask all the different sea life used to create the mutant to swim away from each other. Arthur defeats the monster without even lifting his trident. When facing the villainous Zoom, Aquaman uses his telepathic power to dig into the vestigial evolutionary fish brain part of Zoom's mind and gives him a seizure. That's what you call playing Grand Mal Hardball.
Or, my personal favorite.
Yeah?
Hey, can you grab me another beer?
Yeah. Anything else? Maybe, a TV guide and, another pillow for your feet or something like that?
No, actually, you know what? Give me like a Dewar's and soda, and try to keep the salt water out of it if you could.
Try to keep the salt water.
Yeah.
We're surrounded by salt water. I don't. It's a little bit difficult.
I know. I'm just saying. Try.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try. Yeah. You want me to wipe your ass too?
Oh wow, that's a helpful tone.
Yeah. I'm just saying. You're kind of abusing your powers a little bit. Don't you think?
Actually,
it's a little bit ridiculous.
You know what? Actually, this is all time that could be spent getting me my beverage.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually from Family Guy, but here's another moment where Aquaman merges with the sea and turns into like an Aqua Godzilla. Pretty awesome. So what do we got? We've got an alien underwater environment, freakish giant monsters of the deep, magical and telepathic abilities, ancient artifacts of the gods, and if they wanted to, I suppose they could set it during pirate times. There is so much amazing potential there that if they just throw all of that away in favor of like a Thor-like fish out of water type story, what a disappointment that would be. Personally, I do not want to see Aquaman on land for more than say 20 minutes of the whole movie. Keep him in the water. Make it weird, make it unique, make it cool, make it different, make it exciting. Make it everything that Aquaman can be to set him apart from everyone else who's out there. It's now confirmed that the villain of the Aquaman movie is going to be Black Manta, who is a truly evil villain in the comics. Naturally, the rivalry between him and Aquaman involves dead fathers and revenge, just as most comic book nemesis stories do. But Black Manta takes things much further. Later on, it was revealed that Black Manta as a kid used to have autism, but he was cured by a certain serum that he was given. And once it wore off on him as an adult and the autism came back, Aquaman used his telepathy to heal him of his autism again, hoping to redeem him and turn him good. And Black Manta showed his gratitude by suffocating Aquaman's son in an oxygen bubble. Wow, a truly despicable character. But his motivations in the comic are not just revenge or being evil for the sake of being evil. He has a different agenda. Just see for yourself.
It was at this point that Black Manta revealed that he wasn't just a surface dweller aiming to rule the ocean, but that he was aiming to make it a home for his people. By this, he literally meant black people, pointing out that his villainous identity wasn't just a clever name. He also confessed that he was not driven by racism, profit, or prejudice, but by the desire to give his people a place where they could be the masters. That's right, Black Manta was a civil rights supervillain.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that kind of stuff would fly in the Aquaman movie. Maybe just make it that he's trying to get the trident or something. After all, him being after an Indiana Jones style object, that would kind of match with what director James Wan said the movie will be about. And I quote, "It's ultimately a quest story in the spirit of Raiders of the Lost Ark meets Romancing the Stone." So Raiders, meaning they're looking for an artifact, and Romancing the Stones, since that's kind of a bit more of a love story as well. And Aquaman's wife Mera has now been cast, played by Amber Heard, so evidently she will be sort of co-starring in the Aquaman movie, and it'll be the two of them together going off on this adventure. James Wan continued, "I think Amber and Jason Mamoa, in their moments in Justice League, are going to give the rest of the world a flavour of what their own standalone movie could be. So it'll be interesting to see what their interaction is going to be like in Justice League, since that's basically a preview or a template for what the Aquaman solo movie is going to be." And James Wan did say, "It's going to be a swashbuckling adventure." Hey guys, just letting you know that if you're fans of the podcast, it's still on iTunes as per usual, but if you also like to watch it on the YouTube version here, it's no longer on the channel here. That's part of the channel overhaul I'm doing. It's going to be on Trey's channel, so click on the card here. There'll be a link down below if you want to watch them on his channel. Also, there won't be a vote this week for what video I do next week, because next week is the week just before Rogue One, so I'm going to do Revenge of the Sith, the mega review. You guys have been waiting for that for a while, so that'll be out next week. Okay, back to it. Okay, so let's take everything we've said and try to throw it together in some kind of a story in what I call...
Opening scene. Centuries ago, the ancient city of Atlantis is being rocked by a devastating earthquake and begins to slide into the sea. The king of the city prays to the gods of his ancestors, the god of the sea, Neptune, to save his people. At the last second, as the city is swallowed up by the monstrous waves, Neptune appears, the last surviving member of the old gods. Neptune is centuries old and is dying. So in his last act, before he dies, he waves his trident across Atlantis, giving every citizen therein the ability to breathe underwater, and he gently guides the city down to the ocean floor and puts a protective shield over the top of it, before transferring his last flickering life essence into his trident. Neptune is now dead, but he will live on in the city of Atlantis, the people he saved, and the trident. Jump to the present day, and the descendant of that ancient king now sits on the throne of Atlantis, grasping the trident of Neptune, and his queen Mera is by his side. Yes, he is already the king. We don't waste time on an origin, except for maybe 1 or 2 flashbacks. Aquaman's troubled because he hasn't been able to fully master control of the powers that the trident gives him yet. Control of the ocean and telepathic control of ocean life. He wonders if perhaps because he's half human and not full Atlantean, that's why the trident doesn't open up all its powers to him. Suddenly a dude runs in. Another monster has escaped from the trench. Aquaman's telepathy isn't powerful enough to control these creatures yet, so him, Mera, and Topo all swim out to the trench and beat up the monster, knocking it back down into the trench. They figure out that there's actually a signal traveling down from the surface that is drawing all of these creatures out, as this is like the 4th or 5th this week. So they decide to head up to the surface to shut off the signal. On the way up, flashback! Flashback! Aquaman remembers when he was a little kid and was growing up on the surface world before he knew who he was, and his human dad was teaching him how to swim. His dad is telling him about how he has always been searching for the lost city of Atlantis, and he almost gave up on searching until he met a woman who was actually from there, Aquaman's mother. Flashback end! Flashback end! Aquaman and Mera arrive at the surface. Topo waits in the ocean. They go out looking for the source of the signal, and funny fish out of water shenanigans happen, I guess. They finally find the source of the signal, a bunch of weird gadgetry in a warehouse that's sending out a signal that controls the sea monsters, much like Aquaman's telepathic ability cannot yet do. And it's leading all these monsters to a certain series of catacombs underwater. Mera says how can they ever find their way through those catacombs? They're too complicated. Aquaman says he does know them, but there's someone else who knows them much better than he does. Cut to a lighthouse, an old man looks out at sea, and Aquaman rises out of the water right in front of him. Son? The old man says. Hi, Dad, says Aquaman. They all hug and it's all very lovely and everything, and he shows him the map. His dad says that he can get them there, no worries, but he says to Aquaman, you know, it's Atlantis that I really want to see. Aquaman says he's working on a way to get in there, but the city's so deep underwater that any submarine would like crush under the water pressure, and it's not safe for his dad to try to travel there yet. And his dad says, oh, if only I could see Atlantis just one time with my own eyes before I die. His dad puts on a deep sea diving suit and leads all of them down into the catacombs. They find where the monsters have been sent, and Aquaman, before he can send his dad away, kaboom, all of the rocks collapse, trapping them inside the catacombs. They have no choice now but to head in. A bunch of human-sized sea creatures attack, and they're easily killed, Aquaman slicing them up with his trident. They move into the den of monsters, but all they find is Black Manta behind a wall of oxygen. Well, Aquaman, my army of monsters are safely sealed away nearby, ready to be teleported right into Atlantis with this dark side boombox thingamajig that you probably saw in the Justice League movie. All I need to get through your city's shield was a sample of your trident's energy signature, and I got that off the bodies of my goons you just killed outside. Now you'll have to watch Atlantis be destroyed right in front of you. I'm behind a wall of pure oxygen, enough to suffocate any Atlantean, even a half-blood one like yourself. Aquaman's dad rises, but we're not all Atlanteans here. He draws a scuba knife and stabs it into the boombox. It starts sparking and shorting out. Manta shoots his trademark lasers from his helmet and blasts Aquaman's dad right in the back. The boombox goes crazy. It's gonna blow! Black Manta shoots a hole in the wall and escapes. The wall of oxygen disappears as the room around them starts to crumble. The portal opens up towards Atlantis, and Aquaman grabs his dad and all of them jump through it, just seconds before the boombox explodes behind them, closing the portal. Now in the throne room from Atlantis, they can see the entire city. Aquaman says to his dad, "Here it is, Dad. Atlantis. You finally made it." His dad's eyes take in the glorious scope of this beautiful underwater city, and he whispers, "It's beautiful. It's even better than your mother described." Black Manta! Mera tells the army to assemble and to prepare to defend the city. They line up in battle formations outside, waiting for Black Manta and his monsters to arrive. Aquaman says his final goodbyes to his dead father and he reaches for his trident, but pauses. Flashback! Flashback! Aquaman is a teenage boy, practicing his fighting style with his trident, as his Atlantean mother watches on. She tells him, the spirit of Neptune gifts the full power of the trident. Only once a king has suffered for the sake of Atlantis. Flashback end! Flashback end! Aquaman grits his teeth and seizes the trident. He swims through the ranks of his army, everyone cheering their king. He makes an epic war speech to all his men that I can't be bothered to write right now, and they get fired up. Then Black Manta arrives, riding the biggest, baddest monster in the army. Black Manta's wearing a special deep-sea diving suit that he's custom built that allows him to be this deep without crushing, because remember, Aquaman's dad couldn't swim down here without being crushed. Gotta be consistent with these things. But Manta has a special suit, so that's okay. And then this big, epic Lord of the Rings underwater battle begins. Monsters are ripping dudes in half, lasers are being shot everywhere, the ocean around them is turning red, and Aquaman charges Black Manta and his beast head on. During the battle, the beast bites off Aquaman's left hand and pins him to the ocean floor. There are many kings on the land, but only one king in the sea. Now your reign is over, Aquaman. The water around Aquaman starts to churn and bubble. His bloodied stump of a hand begins to take shape once again, and his magical water hand forms, and his trident begins to spark with electricity. Aquaman looks up. No, I think it's just started. He thrusts up with the trident, and Black Manta and his beast are blasted off him. He swipes his water hand across the full scope of the battle, and all of the monsters instantly stop in their tracks. He commands them back to the trench from which they came, and they obey their king. Black Manta is now all alone. Aquaman freezes the water around him, suspending him in a big ball of ice. This is my kingdom, and down here, I'm the king.
So there we have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Put your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think about Aquaman? What would you like to see in the Aquaman movie? I'd also really like to see that Godzilla Aquaman thing. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Bandit. This is Bandit Incorporated. Until next time, I will see you guys in the comments.